I am Brandon Zero, senior reporter at Mergers and Acquisitions. I'm joined by the founder and CEO of Francisco Partners, DJ Deb. Welcome.
Thank you, Brandon. Excited to be here.
Should be a good interview. I wanted to start off just asking what the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion are to the private equity industry.
Yeah, Brandon, it's a great question. To me, it's actually a broader question, which is DEI should not be kind of a tangential piece to strategy. It should be part of the overall strategy. If you look at the world at large, the country at large, obviously it's a diverse place. In America today, it's getting an increasingly diverse. And unfortunately, our industry still has mostly white males. I'm obviously not a white male, but if the constituencies of our customers are different genders, different races, so obviously our industry needs to adapt, because bringing in different opinions leads to better decision making. How can we understand the needs of consumers unless we get people that's a representative of the customer base that all our products are selling into?
That makes a lot of sense. With that in mind, then, what steps are Francisco Partners taking to improve DEI at the firm?
Yeah, Brandon, it starts at the very top. I believe this to my core. My fundamental philosophy on anything is you can't improve anything until you track it. And what we realized about 5 or 6 years ago is we need to put metrics in place across every level of hiring: associates, VPs, principals, partners, all our other functions. And then at our portfolio companies. So today, every quarter at the portfolio companies, we track every hire. We have something called the Rooney Rule in hiring and what the Rooney Rule refers to a philosophy started in the NFL, which frankly has not done a good job of it, but where before they hire an offensive or defensive coordinator or head coach, they need to make sure that they interview people, at least 1 or 2 different people from diverse backgrounds. And we've had the same rule now at our portfolio companies. That's done wonders in terms of increasing the number of diverse board members, diverse employees at all our portfolio companies. At Francisco Partners directly, I'm proud to say that in our associate class, our diverse hiring has gone from about 5 years ago, 33% to nearly half today. We absolutely implement the Rooney Rule today. Our head of capital markets, in fact, our entire capital markets team is female. We've had 2 senior hires in the IR department, our head of HR, our head of tax, our head of business development, all represent diverse backgrounds. And increasingly at the investment partnership level, that's also becoming more the case. Ultimately, this all started because we were tracking it and we made it a fundamental philosophy that we have to do this. This is like the laws of physics. If you don't do it, you're not adapting to the world at large.
That's really interesting. I wonder, do you take a similar approach at your portfolio level when you're looking at companies at that level?
Yeah, and in fact, we're getting ready for our annual meeting in a month. And just before this interview, I was looking over the slides. At the portfolio level, I would say we've made even more progress just because there's more companies. So the N is higher, the denominator is higher. So they have more hiring slots. So you can make that hiring, it's just easier to hire more people because we have fewer slots at Francisco Partners. So the progress of the portfolios have been even more than an FP. And we measure our CEOs at each of our portfolio companies on that metric. When we're adding board members, we say don't recycle the same people, which is what happens in Silicon Valley. Get new blood, get different blood, and that'll lead to different decision making. The irony of our business, like many businesses, is people generally tend to hire their own, and it becomes the proverbial quote unquote old boys club. And you need to disrupt that. Technology is all about disruption. And we need to follow the same way in the way we manage our businesses.
Definitely. I was going to ask actually if you had any key performance metrics to measure your progress. And it sounds like at the board level, number of seats would be an indicator. Are there others that you use to?
It's not just at the board level at the portfolio companies, Brandon. It's actually at the management level in every company as well. And at the second and third level management at the employee level. That's something that's tracked by our consulting group, our operating group every quarter. And we look at that at the portfolio review and say, here's areas where they haven't made progress, so why not? And there's always excuses on why not. And what I tell all my partners is look for solutions, don't tell me what the problem is. I recognize there are societal biases. I have 3 daughters and there is bias. certain things in STEM fields. There's lots of inherent biases, and we just need to break those down. It takes time. This is not an easy solution. It's not an overnight solution, but unless you're constantly pounding at it, it just won't change because inertia settles in.
Sure. Are there any other best practices or insights that you'd like to share with people maybe who are embarking on a journey towards trying to implement more changes towards a more diverse and inclusive strategy?
Yeah, what I would say is probably three things. Number one is you have to make it a mission, which is we are going to do this. Because it's like making an investment. There's always obstacles, there's always issues. And unless you say we're going to get there, inertia is going to set in and you're going to go back to status quo. So you have to say, no, this is what we're going to get to no matter what. So that's number one. Number two, you also have to be flexible and understand like your hiring and the workplace may need to be different if you get more diverse hires. They come from different backgrounds. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Like, frankly, like the perspectives, for instance, some of our female employees have given me was something I'd never even thought of. And I talked to my wife. My wife's like, you never asked me that question. I would have told you that. And, my wife was a lawyer. She's now a law professor. But when she was a lawyer working in corporate law, she's like, they didn't have any of this in place in terms of maternity leave, in terms of support systems, et cetera. So sometimes we don't know what to ask if you're coming from one perspective. So that it's to actually pull the ecosystem in terms of what is going to, not just hiring, it's not just hiring, it's retention and how do we promote them. And number three is you have to get organizational buy-in on why ultimately our business is driven by returns. And you could do all this if your returns attenuate, then it's ephemeral. You have to convince your team that this is better for returns. And there's lots of empirical proof that having a diverse workforce leads you to better decisions and therefore better returns. So you need to get organizational buy-in of that. So it's not just one person or a group of people in an organization driving that change.
That's great advice. Hopefully other practitioners in the industry will take your lead. Thanks so much for joining me, DJ Deb. I really appreciate the time.
Brandon, thank you for your time as well. And I hope we can all continue to make progress in this very important topic.
Thanks.